Let me tell you what the 100-point system is, basically. You have a blank canvas. They walk up to the screens. Oh, no, not the screens yet, but they're just walking down the street, okay? Blank canvas, didn't know anything about veganism before until someone walked past them with a T-shirt on that says, male chicks are macerated in the egg industry, okay, on the first day of life, and they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. 15 points. They're on their way. They've just gotten started, okay? The next day, their friend invites them to a restaurant, and it's a non-vegan restaurant. They have vegan options there. Their friend orders the vegan burger. They go, I might have a try. Taste the vegan burger, realize it tastes delicious, okay? And they go, wow, vegans don't just eat carrots and lettuce. That's amazing. 35 points. They're up to 50 points, essentially. A few weeks later, they're scrolling through Facebook. They see something about the dairy industry. Bobby calves being killed with blunt force trauma on their first day of life and chucked in a bin. That really hits them a lot because the bobby calf reminds them of their dog, and that's another 20 points. Okay, a few months go past, they're walking down the street, and there's the screens. They walk up to the screens of Anonymous for the Voiceless, and they see pigs struggling for their life inside of a gas chamber. That's really hectic for them. That's another 15 points. So they're up to 85 points, essentially. You walk up to them, and you say, hello, how are you? Did you realize that by purchasing these products, you put these industries into business? The blood is on the hands of the consumer, and we're asking you to make a moral choice and be vegan. And they go, you know what? Is there any resource for me to sign up to some type of challenge? And you go, well, as a matter of fact, here you go. So you pull it out your fanny pack and you give it to them. And that's the last 15 points that they needed, basically. Then they're up to 100 points and they go vegan. You might think, I'm an amazing activist. I turned them vegan in that first conversation. But more often than not, they've heard this message somewhere else before. Okay? Now, you might be that 10 points to get them started or the last 15 points to finish them off. But what are you if you remain silent? Missed opportunity. Okay, so don't put too much pressure on yourself. Think of it as a point system, and you're walking down the street and you're just dropping 5 points here, 20 points here. There's someone at the fridge over there in the shop, and you know they're buying some milk, and you give them documentary, Dairy is Scary to watch, and you're like, 20 points, swish. And then you move on throughout your day, you know. Some people can only take on a certain amount of points at a time. You just can't force too much on people too much. You know, you've got your mum in the corner, you're making her watch Earthlings Cowspiracy and What the Health in one day, and she has to go vegan or she can't leave the house. Think of it as a point system. This really helped me when Omri told me about this. Now, the longer you're vegan, the longer you're an activist. Okay, or it might just happen with short-term vegans. The suffering of the animals is getting a lot for them. Can be really hard, and you can start to lose hope. You might feel like your efforts are not enough. You bear witness all the time. You're sharing videos of animals at the front of slaughterhouses. The trucks keep rolling in week after week after week, year after year. Start to lose hope. Now, I don't actually lose hope, okay? Because what I do is I focus on the exponential growth of the movement. Now, I understand what's going on with animals. I bear witness and I see their struggle. But I also focus on the evidence. Now, if people don't think that vegan activism is working, they're denying reality, okay? They are denying reality. Let's just talk about marches alone, vegan marches. If you haven't been to a really big vegan march, I highly recommend you do it. It's a very exhilarating feeling. First big one I went to was in the UK 2 years ago. 5,000 people came. We were marching through the streets screaming for animal liberation. It was amazing. A vegan march, not one for, you know, dolphins or dogs. It was for all animals. Amazing feeling. We shut down the streets of London. And then 2 weeks later, we went to the biggest animal rights march in history in Israel for 25 to 30,000 people. She looked amazing from the sky. It was huge. This wasn't happening 5 years ago. This year in the UK, doubled. It was 10,000 people this time. It was amazing, really amazing. Also, there are more vegan products on the shelves. Big fast food chains putting on vegan options. Now, big companies putting on vegan options.
Nomad
Do they care about
and
animals?
Stim execution's good
vegan
too.
companies care about animals? They're not vegan companies, they're just corporations. They care about animals. Of course they don't care about animals. What do they care about? They care about money, okay? Why are they putting on vegan products? Because there's more vegans.
With Lancer.
Why are there more vegans? Because activism is working. Okay? So don't lose hope, focus on that. Now, Well, 2 years ago, 5,000 vegans marched through London, and then there was this stat that came out, and there was like, oh, there's 500,000 people who identify as being vegan in the UK. And I was like, 500,000? There's like 50 or 60 million people in the UK. And I was like, 500,000, that's like 1%. And then I was like, 5,000 of us marched in the UK, that's like 1% of the 1%. And I was like, that's not very many. But then I was like, I thought about it, I was like, still kicking massive goals though. You should see the UK now. There's vegan options everywhere. It's huge. They've actually changed the number of vegans there. It's a lot higher now. But still kicking massive goals. And that just goes to show that even a tiny pinprick of light can brighten a room full of darkness. That's how powerful the truth is. People say, oh, I've got the truth. Every movement has got the truth. Every religion's got the truth. No. You are paying for animals to be stabbed. Here is a slaughterhouse, okay? That type of truth, reality, we have that. It's very powerful. Spread it. I want to talk to you about something that really I don't take my own advice on, and it's avoiding burnout. Okay? How do we avoid burnout? You don't do a 3-week tour with 50 events and fly to 14 countries. That's a quick way to burn out. Get sick and, oh, it's been crazy. But I'm doing it for three weeks. It's only a short-term thing. I wouldn't do this long-term. But my number one tip for that would be rewarding activism. Incorporate rewarding activism, and that would be, for me, outreach. Okay, watching people change in real time. There's nothing more fulfilling than that. It really isn't. You have to be doing something fulfilling in your advocacy. Otherwise, it's all output and no getting anything back. It's all animals suffering. It's all, I'm so helpless out the front of this slaughterhouse, I can't rescue any of them. It's all of that, but you need to have something fulfilling where you're giving back. Also, this is the first tour I've incorporated exercise and meditation. Now, I meditate as a requirement. I'm not James Aspey with it. I've got a little app, and it tells me when to meditate for 10 minutes every single day, and he talks me through it. But I do it because I've figured out that I have PTSD from my gang days and all the violence that I was participated in and witnessed, and drug use. So I do it, and it also helps with my stress levels while touring and going through everything as well. But whatever it is for you, don't be afraid to have a little bit of a break, to change up your advocacy as well, to go from, whatever it might be, focusing on something really negative to maybe something a little bit more light and positive. Switch it up a bit. Give back to yourself, go out and get some nature. Don't be afraid to have a break. While you're having a break, someone else is kicking goals for the animals as well. So these little tips for avoiding burnout, but like I said, I just go as hard as I can, then I go, chill out a bit, and then I just edit videos and cop all the criticism online, and then I go back out to do other stuff. So look, I'm not the perfect example of avoiding burnout, but that's the sort of best tips I can offer you. Meditation, exercise, rewarding activism is the number one, and don't be afraid to have a break. Now, when I was in the UK and everything went viral on the internet and media, I heard this it was like a consistent message coming from animal agriculture and the dairy industry and, the meat industry, that, we're not really too afraid of those vegans. What they're doing isn't working, Dairy sales haven't decreased when they had. Don't ever let the opposition tell you what your movement is. They love to demoralize us. They'd love to. They would love to. Now, for this to manifest, a vegan world, we all have to collectively believe it is possible. Okay? We called the UK tour the Vegan Prophecy Tour. And people were like, there's religious connotations. No. Prophecy just means going to happen. Okay? Going to happen. We 100% believe that a vegan world has already happened. We just haven't caught up to it yet. Okay, and that's what we all need to believe. If you're putting energy into it not manifesting, what's going to happen? Everything is born out of a belief. Okay, a belief that it's possible. Okay, and we should have an unwavering belief in this. I want to talk briefly about infighting, because guess what? You're not special. It happens everywhere in the movement. People not getting along, okay? People criticizing each other's activism. My activism's better. I don't like that person, this, that. All that happens everywhere. Now, what I've learned is that we shouldn't be focusing our energy and attention on that. The only victims of infighting are the animals, okay? Because we're putting much needed energy into infighting, which contributes to burnout, people losing, their motivation. Now, what I do is when I have these pages making up, we've got pages dedicated to, making up stuff and, just sledging us. When it gets back to me, I don't focus on it anymore, but when it does get back to me, I just sit there making a very big, long, drawn-out post about the dairy industry, okay? And that's how I channel the energy. Now, we should be focusing on what unites us, what we have in common, which is what we are fighting for, okay? Now, if you don't get along with someone, that's fine. It's a very big movement. The reason there's infighting is an indicator that the movement is growing very fast, very big. Okay, so not everyone's going to get along. It's impossible. I wouldn't expect everyone to. Okay, you don't have to go have a tea party with someone you don't like. But what I like to do is I'll go, okay, I don't like that person's character. Something they did, their personality, it's just not me. Can't be around this person. But I really appreciate that post they put up about, the slaughterhouses, speaking up for pigs. That's great, and the animals have a very powerful and fierce advocate for them, and I'm grateful for that. And it helps change your perspective on them, and you make it more about the animals, okay, and what we're fighting for. The biggest threat to any movement is the movement itself, okay, and animal agriculture would love to hear that we're all bickering and backering and, fighting within each other and not focusing on fighting the real enemy. Which brings me to my last, final point. We're all in this together, okay, solidarity. And I want to tell you a story about where I felt this the most. I went to Bali for the Bali Vegan Festival, and I wanted to do something more in Bali for animals than attend a vegan festival. So I was going to do a vigil for the animals, Bali's first vigil, so I was thinking, where's the slaughterhouses? I was asking, where's the slaughterhouses? Couldn't really do a vigil there because trucks just aren't rolling in at these slaughterhouses, are a bit smaller. In my heart, I decided, I want to bear witness on the kill floor. I want to see what it's actually like for these animals. I want to tell their story from the kill floor. Not a requirement. If anything, I would steer people away from doing this. This can cause serious trauma. So not a requirement as an activist at all. Something I was drawn to do. Now, I went in under the guise of being from Australia, involved with animal agriculture myself, a student. Cows were my favourite animal. I really wanted to see what happened in there. I had a translator. We went in, I covered my vegan tattoo, we did a tour, and we said, wow, that's amazing, took photos, footage. And then we said, when's the kill floor start? And they said, later on tonight. So we said, are we allowed to come back? They said, yes. We came back. Man came out with a big knife in his hand, t-shirt off, and he was like, what are you doing here? We said, I was actually quite, worried. We said we had permission to be there, and he said, okay, come in. We went in. Straight away, as soon as we walked in, there was a cow who had a rope through her nose, a beautiful animal, puppy dog eyes, dragged onto a machine. The machine was holding her down, her throat was exposed. And straight away, he dragged the knife across her throat and blood sprayed straight past me. When an animal has their throat slashed open and they're fully conscious, they try to struggle for their breath. So they're breathing in and blood is going into their esophagus, into their lungs, and they vomit out of that same hole. Very disturbing thing to watch, legs flailing around. Took each of those animals, I watched 4 animals be decapitated that night in front of me, and took them each about 10 minutes to die. Really, really horrible. Now, the hardest part about that for me was witnessing what was happening to them and not being able to physically intervene. The best thing I could do is tell their story through the camera. Obviously, in that moment, I knew it was about the animal. I took, it off of me and put the focus on the animal, and I was like, oh my God, how terrible this all is. Made a video, put it up on my YouTube channel. I edited out most of the gore, so the animals having their throat slashed open, all of that's edited out. It's still on my channel called Vegan Witnesses Insane Halal Slaughter. Now, when I put the video up though, in the comment section, a lot of the community saw something I didn't see. And they said, Joey, you've been working pretty hard lately, maybe you should have a little bit of a break. PTSD can kick in later on. You don't know how much this has affected you till afterwards. Do you want to talk about what you've seen? Inboxes, messages of support, people asking me if they want to have a phone chat. Now, I felt like I was okay. I've got a thick skin, I've been through quite a violent past, and I felt like I dealt with it okay. They didn't know that though. I had support there if I needed it. And that's what we all should be for each other. Support if we need it. Okay? Now, the person next to you might be doing it a little bit harder than you. They might have a softer skin than you. They might not be as experienced as you. And you just asking them if they are okay could be the difference between them leaving or staying in the movement. Okay? So, like, you might have gone through the family thing, you know, being ostracized from your family. That's a big one for people, you know, and someone else might be going through that and not know what to do. And your experience and your guidance and support could really help that individual. So, I think we should incorporate the support network just into our activism fundamentally, and it will create a stronger movement of stronger individuals if we all feel like we have been supported. I get amazing support from so many people. I also get a lot of the criticism, but it's all drowned out by the support, and you know, it's amazing. I always finish my workshops with this quote, and I think I always will. It's amazing. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who stand by and watch. So let's get out there and do something. Thank you so much. Thank you. Choice, stop forcing your opinions on me. You know, you could say, well, your choice has a victim, so it ceases to be a little introduction into who I am and how I come to be a vegan activist, animal rights activist. I haven't always been this way. Haven't always been a good boy. I went down the wrong track for many years, a decade, and I had an epiphany when I was imprisoned. Part of that epiphany was becoming sober, realizing the error of my ways, and I started to right the wrongs of my past. Okay, so I've been living in amends ever since, and part of that is helping those who can't help themselves. I always wanted to help people, and I thought that was a noble thing to do, but then I realized there was a group of beings who needed my help more, and they couldn't speak for themselves. They were screaming and no one was listening. So I decided to help animals. I become vegan after a series of events, really bizarre series of events, and it was mainly due to my clear mind and pulling myself away from the environment that I was in. So that's a short story. It went for a lot longer than that, but we don't have much time. When you talk about this subject with people, you are met with opposition. That opposition stems from conditioning. We've been taught a certain way for many years.
Whenever I've mentioned vegan to non-vegans, they're always angry or laugh or just make fun of you. So my mum went vegan a year ago and she had a failing liver, fatty foods, and actually cured it. And I made a status about that, and I still had people I've grown up with attack me. So I was wondering why you think that is.
Why is it?
Yeah.
We've been taught we need meat for, we need milk for, that something humane happens in a slaughterhouse. We've been taught all these things and we're fed lies. You look at a milk carton, you see a green pasture, and you think that's the be-all and end-all of the dairy industry. They don't show you what happens in between. If the right person talked to them, they wouldn't think it was very funny if they seen a pig screaming for their life in a gas chamber.
Yeah.
No, but they just don't see that. So like, you have to look at it from like their perspective. Okay, people ridicule things they don't understand. And what can happen when you bring these subjects up to people is they have cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the feeling associated with contradictory belief systems.
Thank you. Also, my friend, she always asks me stuff about veganism at school, but then she gets mad at me.
She gets mad at you. Yeah. I think because she might feel like, I don't know, maybe she feels attacked or something like that, so she might get angry, but she just probably doesn't understand, so give her some time. So if your beliefs are contradicting your actions, You get an uncomfortable feeling in your tummy. Doesn't feel good. Feels a bit frustrating. Feels like, wait a second, I have these beliefs about animals. You're talking to 99% of society who agree animals should be treated morally. Well, because of the conditioning, right? And because people just don't understand what veganism actually is, it's about not stabbing animals for burgers. The core principle is about exploitation and where exploitation leads, okay? Individuals who would like seeing a dog be butchered in front of their eyes, or even a pig. You know, they like it to remain behind closed doors. But when you bring this up to them, many excuses come up, and it's almost like everyone has the same ones. But it's weird, like, you might not even know any of these people. Okay, they might be in America, and you're over here in Adelaide, and they'll say exactly the same things to excuse the abuse that goes into their burger as the person in Adelaide does. And it's very bizarre. The best way through that is to ask them questions, get them thinking. Like, how? How has everyone been taught the same thing? What is the number one excuse you hear? Someone shout it out. Protein? That's the number one. I'd probably say that's up there number one too, because that's how they marketed it for so long, meat for protein. You have to eat meat to get protein. You can't get protein without eating meat. It's just impossible. You will die. You will die. 5 years ago, stopped eating meat. Not dead yet. And I think like the thousands of vegan bodybuilders would beg to differ. Protein, where does it originally come from? It originally comes from plants. All protein originally comes from plants. Now the lion eats the deer. You might say, well, the lion ate the deer. Got their protein from the deer. Where did the deer get the protein from? Exactly, it all stems from plants. All the nutrients you need. So it's basically the same argument. What about iron? Well, you eat cows to get iron. Where did the cow get the iron from? Plants. All nutrients, nearly all nutrients. If the fruits and vegetables weren't sterilized and the water wasn't chlorinated, B12 would be on these fruits and vegetables and it would be in the water supply. You can supplement with B12, I think it's important that everyone does. The animals are injected with it, but nutrients, all the nutrients we need come originally from plants. Do you think it's moral to stab an individual to death to get the protein out of their flesh? Do you think it's moral to murder someone to get the iron out of their blood? We're drinking the blood of innocent beings to get iron, and there's no way around that. That's the truth. And I speak the truth. It's harsh. It sounds really like, come on, mate, that's a bit militant. No, it's not. It's the truth. Where do you think you're getting the iron from? The blood of innocent beings. So the question would be, do you think it's moral to stab someone to get iron? And all animals are stabbed. You should tell me an animal that doesn't get stabbed, actually. Maybe male baby chicks in the egg industry. You don't eat those male baby chicks, though. But fish get stabbed in the throat, cows get stabbed in the throat, pigs get stabbed in the throat, okay? They're gas chambered first, or they're shot in the head first, or they're electrocuted first. But they're all stabbed in the throat. Why? To drain them of their blood. So they're all being stabbed in the throat, okay? Now people go to me, Joey, you're being animated and you're trying to, over-exaggerate. My words cannot over-exaggerate what happens to animals. You watch the footage. Watch the footage. My words don't do it justice or even come close to doing it justice. It's an absolute abomination. I could say, well, there's iron in my blood. Do you think it's moral to stab me for the iron in my blood? And they're going to say, well, no, because you're a human. Okay, here we are. Humans and animals. There must be some massive difference between us. That makes it moral to stab a cow and not moral to stab a human being. What is that difference? We could say, okay, well, Joey, humans are clearly more intelligent than cows. Cows don't have iPhones. We could say, well, not all humans are intelligent, are they? Some human beings are born with a disability, aren't they? Do we treat them immorally? No, we don't. We protect them with human rights. Okay? Just because a cow might not be able to drive a car or use an iPhone, or you might think that you can do mathematics better than the cow, does not morally justify stabbing the cow to get iron. because you would not apply that justification for stabbing me to get the iron out of my blood. You would call it an injustice. You would call it murder. For some reason, we've made a distinction between cows and humans. And we've said, well, even though cows are the same in all the ways that matter, aren't they? Think of the ways that matter. Sentience. What is sentience? They are self-aware. They are conscious beings. There's someone inside of there, an individual with a personality, experiencing their reality subjectively, through their own eyes, through their own lens, okay? Just like there's someone inside of you who gets scared, who gets hungry, who gets tired, escapes danger, avoids pain, you know, welcomes well-being. All animals want to experience well-being. They want to avoid pain and suffering, okay? We have that in common with cows, pigs, fish, chicken, you name the animal. Okay, yeah, there are differences. I'm not going to say we're all the same. There's differences between human beings as well. It doesn't justify treating one human differently from another. You can say animals, they're a different species, they look different to us. You know, cows, they look different to, you know, imagine if we use that type of discriminatory mindset against each other. We have in the past and we still do today. And it's what separates us. Speciesism. Okay, it's like racism, except it's to do with discriminating based on species. And it's usually human supremacy. Human supremacy to the point where we're like, we think we're that much better than animals that we can steal their children off of them, forcibly impregnate them, stab them to death and eat their body parts and use their skin as a sweater. Okay? That's what human supremacy does to animals. What does racial supremacy do to other humans? Gas chambers. Horrible stuff. We put pigs in gas chambers up here at Murray Bridge. I don't know if anyone's been to Murray Bridge to hear the pigs scream for their lives and beg for mercy inside of a gas chamber. It is absolutely heart-wrenching and you can't do nothing. Do you know why? Because it's legal. What we do to pigs in gas chambers is legal. If someone comes up to you and goes, yeah, but do you need protein after everything I just said then? We discriminate against animals, certain animals, based on species. Okay, it's usually human supremacy, but not always. Because how many people have a dog at home? Nearly everyone, or's got a cat. You got some companion animal, a bird. Maybe you rescued a bird, maybe, you know. Most people have a dog. I always use dog because I've always been around dogs. You know, we all know the character of dogs. If anyone hurts a dog, oh my God, around Australia, kill the bloke. Kill them. And that is not me saying that. You go to any Facebook video of someone abusing a dog, go through the comment section. Kill them, skin them alive. Do exactly what he did to that dog to him. True? Are they all vegans? Of course not. Of course not. They're just compassionate people and they don't see that they're applying one moral standard to dogs that they completely disregard when it comes to cows, pigs, fish, chicken, lambs that are on their plate, that died, were murdered. They didn't just die naturally, they were murdered, had their life robbed from them in a slaughterhouse. Disgusting place, a slaughterhouse. So we discriminate based on species because of cultural conditioning. Okay, you go to Yulin, China, dogs are food. Okay, dogs aren't, I don't think dogs are food. I don't think pigs are food either. Okay, see what culture does? It conditions people to believe certain animals don't matter. And the root of all evil, the idea that some lives matter less. We could just let's just stick on this intelligence thing because it's a really important point for everyone, even if you're not vegan, if you are vegan, it doesn't matter. This is a really important point. Children. Would you say a 4-year-old child is as intelligent as your average 30-year-old human? Of course not. Okay, they're very vulnerable too, children, aren't they? Vulnerable, they need to be protected, defended. If anyone touched a child, abused a child, it would be on. They'd be in prison or, you know, God help them. God help them. Animals, pigs, let's just say pigs, they're around, they're comparative with their intelligence to around a 3-year-old child, let's just say. This is science speaking. I don't know if it's true. But let's just say, for argument's sake, they've got about the mental capacity of a 3-year-old child. They might be more intelligent, might have different intelligence, I don't know. We treat pigs like the worst criminals. We treat pigs worse than the child abuser. And they did nothing wrong. Pigs have done nothing wrong to any of us. Okay, and we treat them worse than the worst criminals on earth. Horrible. It's a really tough topic to talk about because this is basically the absolute raw truth of it. You need to know how to debate these topics. You know, when people start going, oh, we're smarter than animals, what are you going to say? Like, well, I'm smarter than a 4-year-old. Should I go around killing 4-year-olds and eating their bodies? Of course not. Like, who would even suggest that? Why does all logic go out the window when we start justifying animal abuse? You know why? Because they taste so good. Animals taste good. I get it, I do get it, but like meat tastes good, they would usually say. People like to separate meat from the animal. It's easier for them, it's just the way they are. They just look at meat, as some inanimate product that just appeared in the supermarket. So they say meat tastes good. And I always correct them and say animals. You're saying animals taste good. The flesh of an animal who had their life stolen from them tastes good. Taste is a sensory pleasure, sensory response. Basically like, okay, it happened on my tongue, the sweet, salty. There might be a little bit of fragrance. They might have used plants to flavour the flesh. They might say, well, it tastes good. And I get that a lot. Who gets that a lot? You get that a lot? Tastes good. Okay, fair enough. I'm not saying that I quit eating animal products because I hate the taste of bacon double cheeseburgers. Okay, that's not why. I thought it tasted good too, but would it taste good if it was torn off the animal raw? I don't know. Bit of fur and bit of tendon, and maybe if you had to kill the animal yourself and watch the blood drain out of them, would you still be hungry? I don't know. I don't know if that would taste very good. That would actually leave a bad taste in your mouth. But taste, using sensory pleasure to justify an immoral act. Where else does this happen? Sensory pleasure, oh, that'd make me feel good. But there's a victim involved, okay? There's a victim involved and the attacker gains sensory pleasure from it. Now, I'm not saying they're a conscious attacker, because that's not true. Not all people that consume animals are conscious animal abusers. But when you present them with some information, and you might show them what's happening inside a slaughterhouse like we do with Anonymous for the Voiceless, which I recommend everyone get involved with. You show them, and then they say, but it tastes good. They've seen the violence, they know that there's blood on their hands because the consumer pays for the violence to happen. Without the consumer's dollar, the violence goes away. And then they use taste to justify it, they then become a conscious animal abuser. Sorry, that's the truth, you are. There's second hand, obviously you're not going around abusing animals yourself. You pay someone else to do your dirty work, but like I did for 26 years, I'm not like devoid, none of us, I don't know, who's been vegan their whole life? Okay, none of us have? Okay, we're all guilty of paying for someone to abuse animals. But a rapist, I hate saying that word, sorry if it triggered anyone, but it's true. A rapist will get sensory pleasure from an immoral act. Now you might go, Joey, oh my God, meat eating isn't the same as rape. I'm not saying that. If you think I'm saying that, you're not listening to me. An immoral act where you gain sensory pleasure, boom. An immoral act where you gain sensory pleasure, boom. That's the justification, sensory pleasure, taste, for doing something horrible. And I'm sure, like, a human being's flesh with the right seasoning would taste really good too. Mince them up into a burger, you know, put some herbs in there, salt, pepper, garlic powder, you know, some cheese on top, you know, maybe made from the breast milk of a human being. You know, you could make a human burger taste really good too. It wouldn't justify, you know, genociding human beings for your taste preference. And you can say again, Joey, well, what, you know, humans aren't animals.
Didn't mean to vault.
We went through that. What is the difference between us? What is the distinction? What is the moral distinction between us that justifies what we do to them? I've been searching for one. Come on, come at me. Where is this one? I've been 5 years searching for the moral justification for what we do to the most defenseless, vulnerable beings on Earth. Still yet to find one. We can go through some though. Here's one, personal choice. Who's got this one? It's my personal choice to eat animals, Joey. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Stop forcing your beliefs down my throat. Okay. If I was speaking up against child abuse, would you still say, Joey, stop forcing your beliefs down that child abuser's throat? No, meat eaters aren't child abusers, not what I'm saying. Okay, don't twist what I'm saying. But if I'm speaking up against animal abuse, that's what I understand veganism to be. It's not some health journey for me. It was at the start. You know, I lost a lot of weight doing juice fasting, found out the power of plant-based foods. The ethics is what turns you vegan. And usually when you stop consuming the flesh of, you know, animals who suffered and, you know, all that fear, something wakes, I don't know if this is just conjecture, but something sort of clicks and you understand the ethics. Personal choice. My personal choice. Yeah, it is. It's a choice. I'll say that. I'll say that much. It's a choice. So if someone says to you, whoever it may be, it's my personal choice, stop forcing your opinions on me. You know, you could say, well, your choice has a victim, so it ceases to be personal, basically. You know, yeah, it's a choice. We have many choices in life. You can choose to exploit and abuse animals with your food choices, or you could choose a vegan burger. And there's many around, okay? Now, your health is a personal choice. Eat vegan chocolate, eat the vegan junk food. I couldn't care less if you smoke vegan cigarettes, okay? As long as, you know, actually, you might, if your health, you know, you probably want to be around to see your kids, as long as you're not harming anyone else by harming yourself, you know, that's fine with me. A real personal choice. Not one like, hey, you know, I'm going to go buy some bacon, this pig's going to get gas chambered, 6 months old. 6 months old, these pigs. Little children, screaming, terrified, scared, covered in their own feces, screaming for death inside a dungeon filled with gas. You might say, well, it's sleeping gas, they just fall asleep. No, that, you know, a few years ago, that you might have been able to get away with that until some brave activists, cameras down there, and we seen just how gentle that sleeping gas really was. Horrible, horrible what it does. It burns inside their eyes. The CO2, carbonic acid it's called, when it reacts with mucous membranes inside their lungs and inside their mouth, and it burns. You ever crack a can of Coke in your eye? Get that gas in there? Think about that. Even if it didn't hurt though, you know, if it was gentle gas, we wouldn't put humans and gently gas them to sleep. Irrelevant how gentle the gas is, but it's still horrific to hear them scream and suffer. Suffering is bad. Using animals is the problem though. Personal choice. Okay, so, I mean, you might actually use that excuse yourself, which, you know, you might think, you know, people are infringing on my personal choice. That's not freedom. They're taking away my freedom by saying I can't eat my meat. You know, that's great from your own point of view, but we're asking people to be altruistic and see it from the animal's point of view. Where's their choice? Their choice is being robbed from them. You know, everything, their children are being robbed from them. Their choice to bear their own children and to live in peace and harmony is being robbed from them. This one is really common. Who can guess what it is? No. Close. It's on par with the food chain. Lions. There's many different ways of explaining how people will say it. Or lions eat other animals. Other animals eat other animals. In nature, the spider eats the fly. This is what I got when I was on the Good Morning Britain. Anyone see the Good Morning Britain show? Okay. The celebrity chef goes, the cat eats the mouse, the spider eats the fly. That's just the way it is. The food chain. Animals eat other animals in nature. And quite simply, if you were going to navigate your morality by the actions of the animals in nature, you'd be doing all types of crazy things, and we could be justifying all types of crazy things, couldn't we? I mean, because animals kill each other in nature, they're in a very different scenario to us. They're in a survival situation. We are not. Okay, we are not. We have plant foods. We can manufacture all of our food out of plants. We've got plant agriculture, and it's fine. The lions aren't in the same situation. They do it out of necessity. Like, look, we could justify killing each other because lions, you know, kill each other. Or they have fights and they claw each other's face off, or they go and, you know, hunt down an antelope. We could use that same justification to hunt down human beings who we might deem as prey. Absolutely ridiculous. It's called, basically, it's a logical fallacy. It's a simple logical fallacy. You can look these logical fallacies up. It's one of the most common. It's an appeal to nature fallacy. You are saying basically that because it happens in nature, that it's moral, or that it's even good. There's good things that happen in nature. There's also horrific things that happen in nature. So you can't go, nature justifies my moral behaviour. It's crazy. It's actually quite crazy when you think about it. Think about what other animals do to each other without consent. You know, they don't ask for permission before they start humping each other. They don't act in a civilized way. We claim to be civilized human beings. Civilized, compassionate, you know, sensible, you know. But it all goes out the window when we start trying to justify our abuse of animals for cheeseburgers. What would you say, like, if someone goes, well, you know, Joey, like, our ancestors have been eating meat for millions of years. You know what I mean? Like ancestors, though. Like, and if you don't know, you just, well, that's correct. Well, there's science against it. There's science to support it. I think the majority of science supports that we're eating, you know, meat for millions of years. You can't deny that, can you? I don't think it's wise to deny that. We have to be truthful. But, you know, our ancestors were doing a lot of crazy stuff. And what is an ancestor, really? Well, what, 200 years ago is an ancestor? Well, yeah, is that 100 years ago, a century ago is an ancestor? Ancestors in World War II, gas chambering people? Well, like, how much of what our ancestors did do we want to morally justify? Or use to morally justify our behaviour? I mean, if you're going to use one, you have to use it all. You can't apply that logic. You can't say, okay, ancestors ate animals, so therefore it's moral for me to do it today, or therefore it justifies me doing it today. Ancestors were committing rape, you know, war crimes, murdering each other. I'm not going to use that to justify rape, war crime and murdering each other today, though, because that's just crazy. You're crazy. No, you're going to use ancestors as a justification for your actions. You either take everything they did or nothing they did. You can't use it. You cannot use it. It's a logical contradiction. You can't use it. So yeah, I mean, it's all about supply and demand.
Reloading.
It's great to tell people about supply and demand. You're talking to them, because a lot of people just they might have learnt it in school, but they might have forgotten it. These industries only exist because of the consumer. Period. That sentence right there. I mean, people go, Joey, I'm going to go turn this farmer vegan, so he turns his farm vegan. Look, if that farmer turns his cattle farm, where he's ranching cattle for beef, into a vegetable farm, the demand for beef still exists. It's done nothing to the demand. You want to turn the farmer vegan because then he'll stop contributing to the other beef farms. That's great. But you know what's going to happen if he shuts down his beef farm? The beef farm next door is going to get double the business. That's how it works. You shut down, oh my God, this slaughterhouse I've seen, horrific slaughterhouse. We need to shut it down. You know what? The horrific slaughterhouse next door, there's no such thing as a good slaughterhouse. Okay? No such thing as a good slaughterhouse. The slaughterhouse next door is going to get double the business. We target demand. That's how things change. The consumer. This is another one. What am I going to, like, how am I going to make a difference? Like, if I stop eating animals, that's all good and well, but that's not going to change anything. Imagine if everyone on Earth had that same mentality. 7 billion people. All like, oh, it's called an appeal to futility. It's also a logical fallacy. I learned a lot of these online. Ask yourself, hey. These are very important to know. Appealing to futility, it's futile. It'll never happen. So why should I change? Why should I stop committing a conscious act of animal abuse because other people are always going to commit conscious acts of animal abuse? Why should I not abuse that child? People are always going to abuse children. Doesn't matter if I don't. Apply the same logic. It's absolutely insane when you apply it in a different context. Think about that. I say people are always going to murder each other in war too. People are always going to be raping, you know, each other, and those horrible things are always going to be happening, but you don't do it, do you? You don't do it because there's, you know, you have your own, you know, moral code that sort of, and you will have your own victims. Everyone has their own victims. I had my own victims for 26 years, not just animals, human victims. I was going down a very violent path. Okay, I realised that, I stopped, you know. But imagine if my mentality was like, no, I'm not going to get in these bar brawls and stop bottling people because there's always going to be bar brawls. Like, everyone has their own body count. And it's about minimising that as far as you practically can. So if someone goes vegan and they can stop, you know, 1,000 animals, let's just say they stop 10, God, I mean 10. 10 animals being tortured, abused, bred into existence. I mean, if 1,000 people did that. So that's the appeal to futility. Okay, this one here, I think we'll spend a little bit of time on. Because it's my baby. I love this one. Not, I hate it. It's the worst one. It is the worst. It's literally the worst one. If someone dared justify, you know, kicking a small child and said, well, don't you know, mate, like, why are you so upset? The carrots that you eat feel pain too?
Mine.
Imagine that. Imagine if someone got a cigarette lighter and started burning a dog on the face. You know, doing something horrific to a dog, which people do that. Because sick people do sick things to animals. Let's just use a dog.
I can't believe this
And,
shit.
you know, when you pulled him up and, like, you might have pushed him off and said, what the hell are you doing? And he said, plants feel pain too. What's your problem? Imagine that. Imagine the uproar.
Okay, let's do
Imagine you'd be in every single newspaper on earth. So I think that's on par with the worst, I'm going to say. Like, comparing like a cow, a sentient cow, beautiful animals they are. Like, they are so loving, so intelligent, they really peaceful, majestic. Who's been to a sanctuary? Who's met a cow? Many people met a cow? Not many people have met a cow. Got to meet a cow. Beautiful, or a bull, male, female. Cows, bulls are male. Really majestic, quiet, like, they're really timid, shy. Beautiful animals. It's like something, there's someone in there and it's a beautiful experience. Comparing someone to a bag of rice or, you know, a pot plant. Saying, oh, you know, that pot plant, you know, feels pain too, so therefore it justifies us holocausting trillions of animals every year, ripping them out of the ocean, clawing their face like with a massive hook and just, you know, sometimes it gets them in the side of the head. They suffer on the side of a boat, you know, suffocate in a big bath full of ice. This is what we do to sea animals. Horrible. Horrible. And then people go, well, plants feel pain too. Don't you get off my back. Now, a big reason people say this, which is like, it's basically a misinterpretation of the science. And everyone's heard about, you know, plants being intelligent. Really smart plants are, they're intelligent, they're not intelligent like a cow is intelligent, but they do possess their own intelligence, and I learnt a lot about plant intelligence, and I think it's important as vegans, as advocates, not to dismiss how incredible the plant kingdom is. Amazing what plants can do. Trees communicating with each other, okay? They communicate some type of electronic pulse, communicating with each other, letting each other that know there's danger. They might harden their bark to avoid being attacked. They spray some type of pheromone in the air to avoid being eaten. They sense when they're being eaten, they might release some type of poison. All of these amazing reactions to stimuli in the environment. Now, plants have been evolving for thousands and longer than animal life, I'd suggest. I mean, plants can even learn, okay? So some leaves might have like a mechanism where they might close up when they're touched. There might be a drop of water touching on the leaf. I learned this the other day, I thought it was amazing, okay? And after a period of time, the drop, the leaf recognizes that the drop of water isn't harmful, so it stops reacting to it. Amazing, right? Does that mean that the tree is a sentient being with wants, desires, and needs? They want to experience well-being, avoid pain and suffering. There's an individual inside of there having a subjective experience with a personality. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't mean that at all. Trees are having intelligent reactions to the stimulus in the environment. That's it. They're like big unconscious biological computers. That's what they are. Okay, there's amazing things that your phone can do too. If you touch your phone screen, it's, you know, it senses your feet. You could talk to Siri, and Siri will answer. Your phone isn't a sentient being. Okay, you might say, well, plants are alive. Irrelevant. There's not a scientist alive that believes that trees are having a subjective experience, like there's someone in there. It's absolutely ridiculous to suggest, and it's insane to put plant life on the same level as a cow, a pot plant. No one goes in to rescue a pot plant first from the fire, but they might rescue the dog if the human beings are safe. I think we need to remember to draw the distinction between sentience and intelligence, okay? Sentience is really easy to explain because you are sentient, okay? You experience your reality, okay? If plants did feel pain, Imagine if they did. They felt it and they were like, oh my God, that hurts. This person is hurting me and I need to escape. They're not going to get far, are they? They haven't evolved to avoid pain. So why would it make sense for them to be able to subjectively suffer? It just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense at all. And the only people who will say that there are some supernatural plants that having these conscious, they're just, it's all sort of woo-woo science. There's no, real, it's just basically misinterpretation of the actual science, okay? So, I like to say, is stabbing a puppy dog in the throat the same as cutting up a carrot? Of course it's not. If they see me stab a puppy dog, they'd probably punch me in the face. I would punch me in the face too. If they see me cutting up a carrot, they'd say, what are you cooking? So they don't even apply their own logic. They probably drive on grass and, if they've seen a dog in the middle of the road and there was we all know the one where there's lawn and the dog, would you swerve to hit the lawn or would you run over the dog? If plants feel pain, there wouldn't even be a distinction between the dog and the plants. And yes, you can say also that, the animals they eat consume a lot more plants, but that's sort of playing into it, I think. You could say, well, if you care about plant life so much, animals that you're eating are eating a lot more plants. It's like 16 kilograms of plant food for 1 kilogram of beef or something like that. I don't like to play into that because plants do not have moral value, okay? Plants do not have intrinsic value. The only value plants have is the value it gives to the sentient life on Earth, okay? The only reason the rainforest matters is because of the sentient life the rainforest supports, okay? You take the sentient life off of Earth, there's no capacity to experience well-being, there's no reason to worry about suffering, no one can suffer. There's rocks and there's plants, okay? Plant life matters because of the sentient animals on Earth, humans and other animals. We wouldn't go to court and say, Your Honor, I'm sorry, I just massacred about 30 people and I don't know why you're giving me a hard time. Your sandwich feels pain as well, or the plants in your sandwich scream to death. It's just an insane justification. Thanks for organising. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. I don't need to introduce myself to anyone here. Is everyone familiar with my work? Yes. Okay. Sometimes there's one or two people. I'm like, what are you doing here? Okay, so before I start, I always ask, who here is already active for veganism or the animals in some way? Wow.
Big ass contacts inbound.
Wow. When I ask this question, there's always maybe a couple of people that don't put their hand up. I think that more and more people are putting their hand up lately, which is great. But I think what it is with those who don't raise their hand is they have a perception in their mind about what they think an activist actually is. And they think that you have to do street protests, you have to be in AV wearing a mask and showing slaughterhouse footage, you have to be stopping slaughterhouse trucks. They are forms of activism, not the only forms of activism though. You can be an activist in many ways, an advocate. If you're persuading people to change, creating social change, that could be in your circle. You could be sharing stuff on your social media. You are an activist. Okay? So think of it like that. Now, first thing you had to find out before you got started, and first thing I found out before I got started, was the reason why I'm doing this. The reason why. Now, if you don't know the reason why, or it's not reinforced in your heart strongly enough, As soon as things get hard, you're going to give up. Okay, I would have given up at the start of this year when things got a bit hard with media and all that. Maybe the start of this week, when it's quite a tiring tour. But because I understand that I'm doing this for something bigger than me, okay, for someone other than me, it keeps me going. And that's what you all need to remind yourself. If you've forgotten why you're an activist, or you start to, get a little bit... I always remind myself, bearing witness, coming to a sanctuary, focusing more on the victims than myself, really important. On the way here, that's the alarm for the next part of the speech. No, it's not. That's me forgetting to set my alarm. This must be a really important part, and it is, because on the way here, on the plane, we were watching a film, and before the film there was a quote by Mark Twain, and it said, "The two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." Okay, so I hope you guys have all found out why, because I definitely have. Now, when I first started, I had a fire inside of my heart, right here in my chest. I couldn't explain it, but it was burning, a desire.
Did you take the Lancer from Locker?
Causing people around me hardship, a very negative person. I was in violent gangs, taking drugs. I ended up in prison. Spent a long time taking, not really being grateful for my time on Earth, not really giving too much back. So now I feel like I'm fulfilling that purpose, the reason why I'm here. If anyone else has that fire inside of your chest, never deny yourself the chance to spread it, because that is your purpose and it's calling out to you. Now, if you're going to start teaching people something, which is basically what advocacy is, education-based activism, I feel like is one of the most effective. Not the only, though. You need to have a base level understanding on what you're talking about. You probably all have that. I mean, it doesn't take more than 5 hours to get a base level education on ethics, environment, health. Ethics is the most fundamental. Without ethics, there is no veganism. It's not veganism without ethics. But all you need to know is more than your average non-vegan. You don't need to be Earthling educated or Gary Yourofsky educated. Just more educated than your average person, which is not hard to do because most people haven't looked into this at all. Okay? But when I first started, I inundated myself with information, ethics, health, and environment as well. But you can always fall back on, is it morally justified to stab someone for a burger when we have alternatives? Is it morally justified to stab someone to get iron when we can get it from plants? So you've got that ethical foundation. Don't be afraid of getting in a debate with someone. This is irrefutable. Ethics is irrefutable. Unless they would admit they wouldn't mind human beings being treated in this way, unless they admit they have a double standard for animals and humans. Okay? So ethics is really strong. So don't be afraid, but yeah, educate yourself constantly throughout your journey. Really powerful. I'll get into more about why it's so powerful. Who here has been following my work for, let's just say, more than 18 months? Yeah, okay. Oh no. Oh God. I deleted most of them videos, okay? Now, when I first started, I was obviously angry about what was happening to animals. Very angry. And where I come from, the environment I come from, the way you deal with emotions like that is with aggression, okay? I was pissed off, okay? And I was wondering why everyone wasn't just like as pissed off as me and doing something about it. And I found out pretty quickly about the lack of compassion people showed when it comes to this topic. So I was venting a lot on my channel. Now, vegans loved it. They loved to hear me say the things they wanted to say. But I wasn't trying to reach vegans at this point, was I? Unless I'm doing these workshops, which I do now. But I wanted to reach the non-vegans. So I had to really think about that. I had another epiphany through my advocacy journey. And I was like, when a friend of a friend's father said, I've been watching your videos, and I was embarrassed. I was like, oh, shit, which one do you watch? I don't want to feel like that. Okay, so I thought, how far-reaching is my effect here? So I changed my advocacy, not for me, okay? I changed it for the animals, okay? And I wanted to reach by more people. Now I have grandparents sitting down with their grandkids and, you know, whole families watching my stuff. You know, I still speak with clarity and conviction, and I do not lie about what's happening to animals, but I don't
Sap
swear,
got
I
popped.
don't insult, I don't wish cancer on anyone anymore. We've all been there. I just find angry, okay, a psychologist actually
Thanks
said this
for
to me, this
trying.
is a really important point, okay? Anger is a very useful emotion. Feel angry. If you don't feel angry, you're not looking hard enough, okay? But aggression is anger in action, okay? So, yeah, feel your emotion. It gets you off your butt to do something. But when you act that emotion out, that's when I believe it becomes detrimental. Now, is all aggressive activism not effective? I don't know. I haven't done the study to show that aggressive activism never works. I think it probably does work when there's people fur shaming and they become, you know, but I think for the most part, when we're talking about the majority of people, I think the approach, the respectful approach has worked better just in my own experience. I always talk to people like they're my friend as far as I can. Sometimes I'm a bit tired and a bit short, but, you know, we try our best, but I'm always, you know, hey brother. You'll never see me insulting anyone though. Calling them a name. If they call me something, I don't call them a name back. Keep it on, you know, based on the topic. But I find it lets people drop their guard a bit, especially when I say, you know, I used to consume animals as well, you know, for 26 years. I was also committing conscious acts of violence in gangs, so if anyone should be judged, it's me. So it just brings me down a little notch there, and they understand that way. I was consuming animals too. I was contributing to the same harm I'm asking them to stop. And it opens up the door for dialogue a little easier. People think you're being superior even when you're trying not to. Okay, so you've got to be a little bit conscious of that. Don't be afraid. When I first went vegan, I had vegan amnesia. I forgot that I'd been consuming animal products for most of my life, and everyone was an animal abuser except for me. So, yeah, be conscious of that. Now, I always ask, who here, because everyone thinks they knows, who here thinks they know what the most effective form of activism is? If you've seen my workshop, which no one has actually called me out on this yet, if you've seen my workshop, you'd know that. Does anyone know? No. The most effective form of, that's very good. It's very good to teach people, but the most effective form of activism is a form of activism you are personally, individually, uniquely best at, okay? Everyone is unique in their talents, skills, and abilities. Not everyone is the same. We're all different people. We all are good at different things. Let me give you an example. You don't get the public speaker to burn the vegan food, do you? And you don't get the vegan chef to come up and ruin the speech, okay? We're both as important in our designated areas, though. So I'll give you another example. James Aspey is an amazing public speaker. Okay, that's what he does. He's done hundreds of speeches. But without the person organising his speech, getting him there, making the venue, the speech doesn't happen. So who's more important? James Aspey would be talking to a tree if he didn't have someone organising the event and getting people to come. So we all work together. So don't feel inadequate if you can't do outreach like Ed can do outreach. He's a really good, he's one of the best when it comes to that sort of thing. But you might be really good at something else that he's not good at. Okay, and we need you doing that. So be a little bit more creative about, don't wedge yourself into doing one form of activism when it's just not you. Okay, we need you in other areas. So think about that. Also, I'm going to tell you what I think is really effective form of activism. And I'll give you some really powerful examples of why. Because people go, I know the most effective form of activism. Okay, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence that that's so effective? Here's my evidence. Who here doesn't know who Gary Yourofsky is? A few. Do you even vegan? Come on, everyone should know who Gary Yourofsky is. If you don't, check out his speech, best speech you'll ever hear.
Pretty much fucked now.
Yeah? You know? You've seen that? Okay, you've seen the speech. His speech is more famous than he is.
And that was nasty.
It's crazy. But Gary Yourofsky, animal liberation activist, he was most controversially known for liberating about 1,000 mink, served 6 months in prison with murderers, okay, for liberating animals. Figured out that maybe education-based activism might keep him out of prison and, you know, be more effective. He did around 2,000 speeches to around 50,000 students over the course of his public speaking career. Okay. Someone in the audience filmed one of those speeches.
I died.
Wasn't even him. He didn't ask him to do it. They just did it. Got put up on YouTube. It's gone viral. 3.5 million views for his main speech. Parts of that speech are still going viral on Facebook today. Okay? If it wasn't for someone putting that up on social media and other activists helping that go viral, no one would even really know who Gary is. He would have just been another teacher, fallen on the ears of those in the classrooms. Some are interested, some are not. Now, everyone really in the vegan movement, except for you three, know who Gary Yourofsky is. But that just goes to show how powerful making videos is. You can reach so many people with a very low energy output, energy to outcome output. People say to me, you know, Joey, I'd love to start making videos, but I don't have the amazing camera that you have. So if I save for 3 years and get the good camera you got, maybe I can start making videos then. No, and they say, well, you know, the lighting's not absolutely right, I haven't had my hair done, everything's got to be perfect. No, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. 3 important sentences. This isn't my quote, I heard it and I use it. It's very, very important though, because when I first started, I had this little iPhone 5, I bought it for $100, okay? Second hand, cheap, had a little crappy $400, $500 computer, and I just started talking into my phone. That's how I started. The beauty is, not everyone is going to watch your first video, and trust me, you thank me for that. Because if I had the reach that I have now back then, oh God. So you have time to improve your, you know, the way you speak and what you say on camera and edit, and you know, you just have time to grow, and as you grow, your reach increases. It's really good. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Now, without social media, let's not kid ourselves here. Without social media, there is no movement. Mathematically impossible. They have advertising, they have tradition, they have habit, they have billions of people repeating the same crap. Just would not be possible for us to break through that. Okay? If you went vegan 30 years ago, 25 years ago, or 20 years ago like my partner Laura, you got a pamphlet from an ALF member talking about the egg and dairy industries. Otherwise, you wouldn't have known. You would have thought vegetarian was the moral choice because it's pretty obvious that's a chopped up murder victim, even though I didn't see it. But now, we have social media. Someone can make a video, flick it up on Facebook, it goes viral across the world. Everyone knows what the horrors of the dairy industry now. If they don't, they're living under a rock, but we make sure they see and they know because we comment on everything that they post, and vegans are all over social media and we work 24/7. They can't stop us, even working the weekend, don't even have to pay us. Dairy industry are paying people and we, don't worry, we work overtime. So true. So utilize social media.
Gonna kill it.
If you did all of your activism, look. People say this, they're not activists. I don't, just, no way. If you did all of your activism from your bedroom on a computer with a phone, and you are persuading people to turn vegan, and you are influencing vegans to be activists, okay? You are an activist. Don't let anyone tell you you're not. 2 forms of activism I'm going to talk about tonight. First one, now these aren't the only forms of activism, as I explained. These are just some that I really like to do and I get involved with. First one is Anonymous for the Voiceless. And you don't have to do this under Anonymous for the Voiceless. I do. I also get involved with vegan outreach that isn't Anonymous for the Voiceless. But their style, with the TVs, the masks, just showing slaughterhouse footage and doing vegan outreach, basically is the 2 fundamental things. Showing slaughterhouse footage, vegan outreach. I'm going to give you some outreach tips. Anyone not know what AV is? It's more, yeah, they're more well known than Gary Yourofsky, wow. Okay. So I'm going to give you some outreach tips. These apply no matter where you do it, really, like no matter where you do it.
I forgot it's only 10.
These tips. I don't always follow my own advice because I get stuck on autopilot, like I said, sometimes
Wait.
I'm tired, sometimes you just forget. It's okay. not trying to be perfect here, but we're just striving to be better advocates. The first one is building rapport. Something people overlook, and I overlook sometimes,